Today on Art Matters with Mr. Morris, colors.
Art Matters with Mr. Morris.
Yeah. Artists, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about the next element of art. One of my personal favorites, or at least in my top 8 personal favorites.
Colors.
Colors not only tell us what color something is, but they set the mood. They can change the atmosphere. Have you ever seen one of these cool little remotes that controls light bulbs? Well, if you haven't, you have seen it now. See, I can change the colors in my room. And by changing it, I change the mood of the room. I change the feeling. Colors are important to us because they elicit emotions. If I make everything look red, it tends to look more foreboding or angry. If I make things look blue, then it tends to make things look calmer. Yellow light tends to make people happy. You'll notice I said light. But before we go any further, let me shed some light on the subject of color. Light is important to color. In fact, it's the only reason why we see color. When we talk about light, what we're really talking about are photons that are sitting in a wave. That wave is beaming all the way from the light source, in this case light bulbs, or it's coming from the sun itself. Those photons hit surfaces like this desk. And a certain amount of those photons, a certain wavelength of them, is absorbed into the surface. What isn't absorbed in the surface bounces back and our eyes detect it. Those photons literally are going into your eyeball. When your eye detects the color, it tells your brain what the color is.
But first, let me explain that white is not a color.
Well, would you look at that pretty rainbow? The rainbow is created when light from the sun is refracted as it travels through the water vapor in the air. We can see the same effect here in the studio with these prisms. These prisms are made of cut glass, and you can see that as I lift them up, the light is shining through and it gets focused in different ways depending on the shape that the prism is in. When I shine a light through them all the way though, this is the effect that goes onto the wall of my basement. You can see that the color spectrum, white light going in, is broken into the individual parts of the spectrum. In this way, we can see that white is not a color, but more to the point, when we break up white light, it becomes all of the colors. As artists, we know that white is not a color. At least for all practical purposes, we don't use it as a color. We do use it to lighten things up though. It doesn't create a new color, but rather it changes the hue of an existing color.
So you can see from the prism that white light coming into the prism splits and becomes the colors that we normally call prismatic. The prismatic colors are what we're going to be mostly talking about today. You see, my suit you can describe as being very prismatic, very colorful. Versus this background here, you would describe more as being natural in tone, more muted in color. We use color to describe everything.
But how does this relate to the elements of art?
Lines become shapes, and shapes become patterns, and patterns, well, when we put them together, they look like textures. And textures, they can have color. That's an important distinction to make, that textures don't need to have color, but they can have it. In other words, you can have a piece of artwork that's black and white. It doesn't have to have color, but it can still show that texture. That being said, you can still describe a black and white piece of artwork by using color. Or more to the point, by pointing out that there's a lack of color, or there's only one color. When you see artwork and it's made with only one color, we call that monochromatic. Mono meaning one, chromatic meaning color. Monochromatic. You might describe what I'm wearing as being very colorful. In comparison with the background, you might say that these colors are very bright and prismatic, whereas the background is more dull and natural. We can use color to describe temperature. Like these are really cold colors. These are so hot. These colors are so warm. I'm so warm. We can also say that colors are complementary colors or analogous colors. We'll get to that in a minute though. Today, I want you to break out those sketchbooks and you're gonna find that you have a worksheet that's titled Color. Take that worksheet, because you're gonna need it in a moment. If you're one of my online students and you don't have your sketchbook yet, that's okay. Go ahead and just follow along. You can look at the PDF of it, but just go ahead and follow along. Today, I want you to all be making your color wheel and filling in any definitions that you think might be helpful. I have a hint for you. They're all helpful. Before I start up the video within a videoception, let me ask a question. Is pink a color? I asked you that on the assessment at the beginning of the year. Is pink a color? We'll get back to that. First things first, roll clip.
Today we're going to build a special building, but our special building, it's going to need a good foundation. And I know I think of stone when I think of a good solid foundation for a building. But I don't want to dig up that stone. Instead, we're going to make some stone. We need our magical bucket of water. And we're also going to need a bucket of liquid hot lava. Once we mix those two together, we're going to create a lot of steam. And now, voila! A special foundation that's made out of solid rock. Bow wow wow wow! Yeah! Okay, no, seriously though. We have our special foundations made out of red lava and blue water. And oh, what's this? Oh, it's the yellow sun rising up from the horizon. Yeah, we're going to have the yellow sun that's going to shine down on our special building. But I wonder, what kind of building will last forever? Because I want our special building to last forever. Well, I think about the oldest buildings that I can think of. The pyramids. The oldest pyramid known right now is 4,680 years old, and it's still standing today. So our special building's also going to be a pyramid. And you know what? It was voted #1 building. So I want to put a #1 at the corners, or the cornerstones, of all the points on my special pyramid. Now our first building turned out to be such a success that we're going to build a second one. And I'm going to make this one so it wouldn't be able to stand on its own if it wasn't for the first building, because it's connected to that first building. Almost like that first building is its foundation. It's going to have a roof that's going to be just as wide as the base is wide. Next, I'm going to run 2 walls that go deep underground. Make a cool basement. So far, the yellow sun shines down over the foundation made of blue water and red lava. But now I wonder, what does the yellow sun and the blue water help to grow? Well, what I'm going to put between them is green grass, because that's what grows with help of the yellow sun and the blue water. And we all know that volcanoes are hot, and we know that the sun is hot. So, what goes between those? Well, I think about that green grass, and if it was in that hot sun and the red hot lava touched it, it would turn to orange flames. So, poof! Now we have orange. What happens if I take that red lava and that blue water and I put them together? What color did I get? Well, let's put them together first, and let me show you a trick. If I remove the tail of the R, you'll see it becomes a P. And if I remove the bottom hoop of the B, it also becomes a P. That's my first hint. It's going to be purple goes in there. But I have another way of remembering it also. If you play Minecraft, you already know that red lava and blue water make purple obsidian. Or another way of thinking of it is that underground can be cold or it can be hot. Water is cold, red lava is hot, so purple can be kind of both. Remember, purple is in our underground basement of the second building. Now my second building was such a success that I also want to make sure I put 2s now in the corners of the building to remind me it was my second building. And now it's time for something crazy. We're going to make a third building. This building can't fit inside of our other 2 buildings, so we're going to make hallways at the little corners. We're going to make 6 hallways pointing outwards. Now these next colors are a little bit tricky because different people in different artistic professions call them by different names. We're going to keep it really simple. I'm going to have you call them by what makes the color itself. Yellow and green make yellowish green. Green and blue make bluish green. What? And I know what you're thinking. Mr. Morris, why don't you call it greenish blue? The reason's simple. 1 always comes before 2. Let me explain. Blue is a primary color, and it has the 1 next to it. Green is a secondary color, and it has the 2 next to it. the 1 comes before the 2. So the blue comes before the green. From here we can see blue plus purple is bluish purple. Purple plus red is purplish red. Oh, wait, or is it? No, that's right. Red has the 1, purple has the 2, so red comes before purple. Red plus orange is reddish orange. Now, can you guess if it's going to be orangish yellow or yellowish orange? That's right. It's going to be yellowish orange because yellow has the 1, it comes first. Orange has the 2, it comes second. Now what we have finally done is we've created what we're going to call the
prismatic color wheel. Fancy.
We'll cover why it's called the prismatic color wheel on a future video. So our prismatic color wheel has 3 primary colors, has 3 secondary colors. Let's review all that. A primary has 1 color in it, only 1, whereas a secondary has 2 colors in it. And a tertiary, you guessed it, has 3 colors inside of it. It's like you took your primary with 1 and you took your secondary with 2. 1 plus 2 is 3. So we covered primaries and secondaries and tertiaries, but wait, what about tints? Let's think about the story of our color wheel again. I can walk up and run my fingers through the green grass. I can swim in that warm blue water. I can go underground in those purple caves. Red lava can heat everything up near me. Orange flames, well, I can roast marshmallows on those. But that yellow sun, I can't touch it. I can feel its warmth, but I can't walk up to it. Because it's not here, is it? It's somewhere else. It's in the sky? But what's the sky? No, I think it's in outer space. And we all know space is very black. And the weird rocks and things, well, a lot of those look very gray. Fun side note, in the UK, gray is spelled G-R-E-Y. In the United States, it's G-R-A-Y. Lastly, the stars in space look white. What's special about tints is they're not colors, but they influence colors. Just like outer space is not part of Earth, but everything outside of Earth influences us here on our planet. Alright, time for a review. There are 3 primary colors, 3 secondary colors, 6 tertiary colors, 3 tints. A primary color has 1 color inside of it, a secondary has 2 colors inside of it, a tertiary has 3 colors inside of it, and a tint? No colors are in it. It's not a color, it's a tint. I hope you've been enjoying the video. I do have to say I did make an oops, and I'm sorry. In all the excitement, I forgot we need to put a 3 at the bottom of each one of our arrows, our hallways going to our 3rd building. That'll also remind you that a tertiary has 3 colors in it. The last part of my color wheels, I'm going to put a box with 3 squares in it. I'm going to put that away from the rest of the wheel because it's not part of the wheel, but it influences the wheel. In that, I'm going to put the black, gray, and white for my tints. And that, my friends, that's your chromatic color wheel with tints.
Now, there are 2 types of colors that I want to talk about today, or I should say color combinations. First, there are analogous colors, and second, there are complementary colors. Now, these sound like big, confusing, scary words to memorize, but I'm going to tell you the concepts behind them, pretty simple. It's kind of like mommy and daddy. And mommy and daddy, orange is their baby. And orange, just like any other baby, has some traits from mommy and it has some traits from daddy. And so maybe it has daddy's nose, but it has mommy's hair. I don't know. But my point is that these are all related colors. They have a little bit of each other inside of each other. So we call those analogous colors. Colors that are next to each other on the color wheel are analogous. So yellow and green would also be analogous colors. Blue, yellow, green as a grouping would be an analogous color. Complementary colors are a little bit different, but stick with me for a moment. Some of you live in the suburbs and you may have heard of a cul-de-sac. If you haven't, imagine this. You're driving along and there's little houses on the sides of the road, and then you come to this weird spot where the road goes in a big circle. There's no houses in the middle, but there are houses all the way around. This is a cul-de-sac. And you see it in a lot of suburban environments. Imagine for a moment our color wheel, our prismatic color wheel, is the cul-de-sac. And we come driving in early in the morning and newspapers were just delivered. Mr. Purple walks out his front door and he says, "Hello, neighbor," as he looks across and he sees Mr. Yellow walking out his door to get his newspaper. Mr. Yellow looks up and he says, "Well, hello, Mr. Purple. You look plumberific today." Mr. Purple laughs for a moment and he says, "Mr. Yellow, you look so bright and shiny and beautiful like the sun." These two colors are across from each other on that cul-de-sac, and they're giving each other a compliment. They are complementary colors. Blue and orange, green and red, yellow and purple. Even our tertiary colors would become complementary if you go across the prismatic color wheel.
Whoa, you know a heck of a lot more about colors than you did 5 minutes ago. So we've gone over primary and secondary and tertiary colors. We also went over the tints, which aren't really colors. Black is the absence of a color. It means that no photons really are getting reflected back to our eye, or very few photons are. And white is all the colors crammed into one. For art purposes, we don't consider that to be a color unto itself. So that gets us back to the original question I asked. Is pink a color? Technically, yes. And technically, no. Our tints are not colors. Our primary colors, well, they are colors. Pink is made by mixing white with red. If I mix white with blue, we get light blue. If I mix white with red, we get light red. The color pink is a pastel, and pastels are created when I take an opaque paint, opaque meaning you can't see through it, and I mix it, and I take that white opaque pigment and I mix it with a red pigment. That's going to create that pink look. At the end of the day, it's not a new color, it's simply light red. Colors are important. They enhance our world, they enhance the way we see and feel. We use color to describe our feelings themselves. Color is a vastly important thing to human beings, and therefore it's important to our art also. So quick recap. We talked about the primary colors, the secondary colors, the tertiary colors, and we talked about tints. We talked about how analogous colors are colors that are next to each other on the color wheel, and complementary colors are ones that are across from each other on the color wheel. We talked about the word monochromatic, meaning one color. We talked about how light is a wave and it absorbs into surfaces, and the color is what light wave bounces back into our eyes. And we talked about how color sets a mood or a tone, and it can elicit emotions or can even show emotions. That was a lot of information, I know. But it's good that we can kind of get it all out there right now, and we can have time to absorb that information as we go further into making art and into our class as a whole. My artists, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of what you are doing. I am proud of the artwork you are making. And I am proud of the progress you are showing with taking in all of this knowledge on the visual arts. Until next time, please remember, be kind to yourself and keep on creating. I'm Mr. Morris. Have a colorful day.